Welcome back F11 members to part 2 of the fundamentals of post-production video tutorials for issue 27. In the first part we pieced together this picture and used Lightroom to make various raw conversions for highlight, mid-tone, shadow and the sky area of this picture to be merged together. And to do that we used masking, layer masks, and we also used actions. Now I went through that at quite a pace because we've got a lot to get through this month. If you are at all confused with any of that, replay it, have another look, but I would also suggest going back to the various past video tutorials that I've done, which, for example, here in issue 22, the video tutorial I talk through in this one the business of using Photoshop to merge two exposures using a layer mask, with particular attention on how actions can speed up the workflow. So maybe having another look at that will refresh your memory on it. I know there's a lot to think about. And also in issue 23, in both parts 1 and 2, I went through the business of making layer masks and merging them. So I would really suggest having a look at those again. So let's press on and just review where we're at. So we have 4 layers here. The background layer, that's the background layer, okay, and that's been converted with just the brightest areas, with just the darkest areas of the image in mind. Then we have a second layer laid on top, and that is taking into account the mid-tone areas of the picture, and that layer has a mask here. You can see it applied. The black bit is revealing the area from the background layer underneath, the brighter bit, the brighter background layer underneath, just on this right hand side of the picture. And then on top of that we have a layer for the brighter areas of the landscape, in particular this area here in the distance and some of these tones down here. If I click that on and off, that's the layer that this mask is applied to, layer 2, and the mask is letting us see just those brighter areas of that mask. And then finally on top of it all we have the layer for the sky, and again a mask has been applied, which is allowing us to see only the brightest bit, i.e. the sky. So now I am going to fine-tune this image and the selections. Let's just pause to consider what I want to do. I'd say the area of the shadow areas is pretty good. There's really not much I would choose to do to that. This area in the middle of the picture looks a little bit flat here, as does the falls in the distance, and the sky itself is just a bit flat and insipid. On top of that I need to deal with these horrible bits of grass here in the foreground, and there's a few little imperfections in the image where spots of spray which was flying around at the time, I'm sure you can imagine I was quite close to the water, have caused these few areas of lower contrast which we'll need to deal with as well. Okay, so let's press on. So the first thing I'm going to do is select the background layer, and I am just going to go Image, Adjustments and Curves. And now just looking at the curves just for that part of the image, I'm going to see if any kind of clipping, any kind of adjustments that I can make to just improve the tonal range of just that tiny part of the area will enhance the image. And basically by moving the white point to the right, by holding down Alt, ticking the box called Show Clipping, holding down Alt and moving the white point across, I can see clipping starts to appear in the water round about there. Now I can move that white point into that point without losing any information, and if I now click on the preview button on and off, that lets me see the effect of what I'm doing there. If I do the same, tick the show clipping box again, hold down Alt, move this across, you can see I have really no scope to move the black point, to adjust the black point at all before I start to clip information, clip the shadows. So I'm going to leave the black point as is, and let's just tick that box, show clipping preview on and off, and that has given a little bit more vibrance, not vibrance, that's the wrong word, a little bit more contrast to this area, just livened it up a touch, improved the tonal range just of that area of the image, the background layer which the mask is letting us see. You can see by moving this white point here I have clipped some information, some highlights, but that is hidden behind the mask, so we're not worried about it. So I'm going to just hit OK, and now I'm going to go to layer 1. Two things to look at here, again, image adjustments, curves, and I want to now just adjust the black and the white points and see, fine-tune the contrast of that mid-tone area. And again, if I do the same with the white point, and I can bring it into about there before I start to lose highlight information. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do the same with black point, Alt, move the black point in, I'm holding down the Alt key, and I can come in just a touch. No. In fact, I start to clip shadows fairly quickly, so just a few notches on the black point. Now preview that on and off, and you can see again it's just improved the tonal range, it's livened it up, enhanced the contrast of the mid-range areas of the image, mid-tone regions of the picture. I can also at this stage, if I want to, by using tone curve, brighten it or darken it, or I can put contrast in even further, but of course I think that's too much, so I'm just going to go with something like about that, and that looks good to me. So I hit OK. Next thing it is, I'm going to look at the layer selection here. I'm quite happy with that. The feathering has done its job very nicely, really. There's no obvious or hideous edges apparent to the two layers. So I'm going to move on to the second layer, which is, let's just refresh our memory what this one is doing. By clicking on and off the I button here, it hides and shows the layer. So this layer is essentially there to let us fine-tune the brighter areas of the landscape. So there again I go Image, Adjustments, Curves. And now what I want to do is same again. I'm just going to first of all tick the box Show Clipping, hold down the Alt button and move the white point. Now very quickly I can start to see I'm clipping highlights there in the sky, so I haven't really got any scope for doing much at all to this layer in terms of the white point, so not touch that. Now let's experiment with the shadows. Again, very quickly I start to see clipping appear. So in terms of black and white points I'm doing nothing, But of course I can enhance the contrast of this region, so I'm just going to put in a touch of an S on this area here, and again tick the preview box on and off, just put in a little bit of contrast. Subtlety is the key, as always. And what do we think? You can see how all these small adjustments are just really fine-tuning the picture. Put them all together and it has quite a radical effect. Radical yet subtle, hopefully. Okay, and now finally we come to the sky layer, and I'm going to click this on and off just to remind myself here, using the I button, what area of the image we're looking at. It's the sky. I'm going to go Image Adjustments, Curves again, and now again, is there any scope for adjusting the white point just in the sky? No. As soon as I start moving that into the I can see I start to clip highlights there where the sun is rising. Try it same for the shadows, and very quickly start clipping on the right in amongst the trees there. So there's not much, no scope for white or black point adjustment. Let's just untick the show clipping box now, and just what I want to do is, again, just using the tone curve here, just put a very shallow curve in there and enhance the contrast, and that's it. Alright, and now at this stage I pause and take stock. The picture is starting to come together, but we're not there yet. This is quite a difficult image. What's wrong with it? Well, we've still got this area to deal with. I think we can probably extract a little bit more information out of this mid area here, and you can see where the layers are starting to stack up on top of each other here. We've got a bit of a visible darkening of the top of the trees there, which just looks a little bit unsightly. Plus, if I look up here in the right corner here, this area of the sky, we can just see through the trees here, is actually brighter than this area, and that jars. That doesn't look natural. So I'm going to need to fine-tune and refine the edges of some of these masks here. What we're going to do is, this month, a special, because this is quite a tricky image to work on. We're doing a part 3 where I'll be pulling it all together.